if the thyroxine is not being produced sufficiently, if it's under production, then it can lead to physical and the psychological lethargy. And if we come to see children that the thyroid gland is removed in young animals, it's found that their growth is absolutely stopped and they do not develop sexually. Moving on to the adrenal gland children, this is just above the kidneys and there are two parts to it, adrenal cortex and the adrenal medulla. And each of these two parts are secreting different hormones. When we talk about the adrenal cortex, again, it's being controlled by our very master gland, the pituitary gland. So the first part of the pituitary gland, which is the anterior pituitary gland, is regulating the secretion of adrenal cortex with the help of adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is also called the ACTH. Now, when the secretion of adrenal cortex, if it actually goes down, the anterior pituitary will receive a message and will then increase the secretion of the ACTH, which stimulates the adrenal cortex to secrete more of the hormones. Now, what are the hormones which are being secreted by this adrenal cortex? It secretes a group of hormones which are called the corticoids. What do these corticoids do? They are performing a number of physiological purposes. They are being utilized or rather used for a lot of physiological purposes, like the regulation of minerals in the body, sodium, potassium, chlorides. If there is any disturbance in the function of these corticoids, the function of the nervous system gets disturbed. Moving on to the adrenal medulla, it's secreting two hormones. Number one, epinephrine. Number two, norepinephrine. Another name for these two hormones are adrenaline and noradrenaline. The sympathetic activation, which we've done, which is also the fight or flight mode, the troubleshooter, this particular activation, which accounts for increased heart rate, oxygen consumption, metabolic rate, muscle tone, all of this takes place through the secretion of these two hormones, epinephrine and norepinephrine. They stimulate the hypothalamus and then the emotions are prolonged. Because if you go back to the hypothalamus, it is actually playing a key role in even the emotions with the help of the amygdala. So then the emotions are prolonged once the hypothalamus is stimulated. So we know that the amygdala and the hippocampus are a part of the limbic system, which is also present in the forebrain. But first, the hypothalamus is stimulated, which further helps in prolonging the emotions. Moving on, we have the pancreas. Now, the pancreas, if you see, are very close to the stomach. And the main role of pancreas is in case of the digestion of food. But the pancreas also secrete a hormone which is called the insulin. Insulin helps in what? The function is that it helps the liver to break down the glucose for the use by the body or for storing as glycogen by the liver. So either the glucose is broken down or it is stored as glycogen. But in order to break the glucose, we need insulin. And if the insulin is not secreted, therefore, the glucose is not broken down and people can develop diabetes, which is also called the diabetic mellitus. Then we have the gonads. The gonads are the testes in males and the ovaries in the females. The hormones which are secreted by these glands are helping in controlling and regulating the sexual behavior and the reproductive functions in case of the males and females. Now, whenever the secretion of hormones, which is being done by these glands, it is all being maintained, initiated, and regulated by again a hormone which is being secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. And what is the name of that gland? What is the name of that hormone? Gonadotropic hormone, which is being secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. Now, the secretion of GTH, which is also called the gonadotropic hormone, it will start at the age of puberty, around 10 to 14 years, and will stimulate the gonads to secrete hormones, which will further stimulate the development of the primary and secondary sexual characteristics. When we come down to the ovaries, in females, they are producing the estrogens and progesterone. Estrogens, if you see, they will guide the sexual development of the female body. The primary sexual characteristics are all related with the production, with the reproduction. And all the secondary sexual characteristics are all depending on this particular hormone, which is the estrogen. And the progesterone has no role in case of the sexual development, but the progesterone helps in preparing the uterus for the possible reception of the fertilized ovum. When we talk about the testes, they are producing the sperm continuously and are also secreting the male sex hormones, which are called the androgens. And what is the function? The main androgen is the testosterone. The major androgen is the testosterone. And what does the testosterone do? It is actually prompting the secondary sexual changes, mostly the physical changes in the body. Increased aggression and other